Live for yourself, not for others. The Courage to be Disliked. A literary and philosophical commentary. There are few books that possess the power to challenge our very perception of happiness, self-worth, and personal freedom. The Courage to be Disliked by Ichiro Kishimi and Fumitake Koga is one such book. Drawing upon the foundational theories of Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler, this work argues that the key to a fulfilling life is not found in external validation, but rather in the courage to live authentically, unburdened by the expectations and judgments of others. At its core, the book delivers a radical yet liberating message. All of life's problems stem from interpersonal relationships. Every form of anxiety, self-doubt, and emotional distress, according to the authors, can be traced back to an excessive concern for the opinions of others. To achieve true happiness, one must sever the invisible chains that bind us to societal expectations and embrace the idea that being disliked is not only inevitable, but necessary for personal freedom. The Psychology of Happiness and Unhappiness, Kishimi and Koga, emphasize that happiness is not dictated by the past, circumstances, or inherent personality traits, but by one's chosen outlook on life. This perspective is deeply influenced by Adlerian psychology, which rejects the deterministic view of human behavior. Unlike Freud, who believed that individuals are largely shaped by their past traumas and unconscious conflicts, Adler posited that humans are defined by their present goals and the meaning they assign to their experiences. From this standpoint, the authors argue that unhappiness is often a self-imposed construct. People, whether consciously or subconsciously, choose unhappiness as a means to achieve a certain goal, perhaps to gain attention, avoid responsibility, or elicit sympathy. This notion is both unsettling and empowering. If unhappiness is a choice, then so is happiness. This radical assertion forces the reader to take full responsibility for their emotional state, shattering the comfort of victimhood and embracing the burden of personal agency. Breaking free from the need for approval, one of the book's most striking assertions is that the desire for recognition is the root cause of human suffering. Many individuals live their lives in pursuit of validation, whether from parents, peers, or society at large. They define their worth based on how they are perceived by others, a pursuit that inevitably leads to disappointment and disillusionment. However, Kishimi and Koga propose an alternative, the concept of separation of tasks. This means distinguishing between what is within one's control and what is not. The opinions of others, they argue, are entirely beyond our control and therefore should not dictate our self-worth. Instead of striving to please everyone, a futile and exhausting endeavor, one should focus on living in accordance with their own values. This principle echoes the teachings of Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, who similarly emphasized that external judgments are irrelevant to one's inner tranquility. True freedom arises when one relinquishes the need for approval and embraces their intrinsic worth. The false allure of competition and recognition. Modern society is obsessed with competition, constantly measuring success in relation to others. From academic achievements to career advancements, people are conditioned to believe that their worth is determined by their comparative standing. Yet, this mentality breeds insecurity, envy, and perpetual dissatisfaction. Kishimi and Koga propose an alternative paradigm, seeing life not as a competition, but as a shared journey. Rather than viewing others as rivals, we should recognize that every individual is walking their own unique path, separate from ours. The success of another does not equate to our own failure. This shift in perspective liberates individuals from the toxic cycle of comparison and allows them to find joy in their own personal growth, the fear of being disliked, and the courage to overcome it. Why do so many people hesitate to live authentically? The answer, the authors argue, lies in the deep-seated fear of rejection. Humans are social beings, wired to seek belonging. However, the pursuit of universal acceptance is a paradox. It is impossible to be liked by everyone, and any attempt to do so only leads to self-betrayal. To achieve true freedom, one must embrace the reality that being disliked is not a failure, but a sign of living honestly. This idea is profoundly counterintuitive, yet deeply liberating. By relinquishing the need to be universally liked, individuals can focus on forging genuine relationships based on mutual respect rather than superficial appeasement. This principle is reminiscent of existentialist philosophy, particularly the ideas of Jean-Paul Sartre and Friedrich Nietzsche. Sartre famously wrote that hell is other people, highlighting the psychological torment that arises from living in accordance with external expectations. Nietzsche, in turn, celebrated the idea of the Übermensch, an individual who transcends societal norms and forges their own path. Similarly, Kishimi and Koga advocate for the cultivation of inner strength, the courage to stand firm in one's convictions even in the face of criticism. Living in the present, the ultimate key to fulfillment. One of the most profound takeaways from the courage to be disliked is the emphasis on living in the present. Many people postpone happiness, believing that fulfillment will come once they achieve a particular milestone, a promotion, a relationship, or financial security. However, this mindset traps individuals in a perpetual state of yearning, always chasing a future that never arrives. Instead, Kishimi and Koga encourage a focus on the here and now. Happiness, they argue, is not a destination, but a way of living. When one stops fixating on the past and future, and instead immerses themselves fully in the present moment, life becomes richer and more meaningful. This philosophy aligns with Eastern traditions such as Zen Buddhism, which teaches that suffering arises from attachment and expectation. The antidote is mindfulness, engaging fully with the present, free from the burden of regret or anticipation. Final reflections. The path to true freedom. The Courage to be Disliked is not merely a book, it is a manifesto for a new way of living. It dares readers to abandon the pursuit of approval, to release themselves from the shackles of the past, and to step into the unknown with unwavering authenticity. The book's message is simple yet profound. Your life belongs to you alone. To live freely, one must embrace the reality that disapproval is inevitable. By doing so, one unlocks the true essence of happiness. A life defined not by the expectations of others, but by one's own values and aspirations. Ultimately, the courage to be disliked is, in itself, the courage to be truly free.